Hugo Award-winning, Nebula Award-winning, The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula Le Guin, published in 1969, is a fantastic reading experience and a core novel in Le Guin's heinous cycle of novels. The Left Hand of Darkness introduces two individuals from very different worlds who are very different from one another and examines their relationship that must navigate issues around trust, gender, alienness, and environmental hostility. Le Guin's works have won nearly 40 combined Hugo, Nebula, and Locus Awards, and The Left Hand of Darkness is perhaps her most celebrated science fiction novel. This is a science fiction classic, not to be missed. I recommend The Left Hand of Darkness to introduce you to Le Guin's elegant writing style and prose. I recommend The Left Hand of Darkness as an impressive classic space opera that feels up close and personal with a small cast and very manageable amounts of science fiction. And I recommend it for those who like to spend time watching a relationship evolve among two characters on both a physical and emotional journey. If you've read this novel and you have thoughts on it or any of Le Guin's work, let me know in the comments section after you finish clicking the subscribe to my channel button. I'm gonna make these videos anyway, but your comments, subscription, and your interest fuel my passion for each project even more. This spoiler-free review will include enough to enjoy for those who've already read the book, as well as introduce you to the novel for those who are considering reading it, and you don't want me to give anything away. At most, there will be mild spoilers around the plot, but I'm not going to reveal any climactic moments or outcomes. Again, The Left Hand of Darkness is part of Le Guin's heinous cycle. The setting is far future and basically in the territory of stars and planets in a reasonable vicinity to our own. Many of the planets have human and human-esque evolved civilizations, originally established by Hain, the oldest of the worlds. Everyone is connecting and they communicate, and even in some cases, they join a confederacy of inhabited worlds. In Left Hand, introduced is Genli I, a first mobile or envoy for the Ecumen. The Ecumen is a loose confederacy of inhabited worlds. These worlds have their own governments, society, and ways of doing things. Presumably, the worlds vary greatly in economic systems, technological advancement, and ideals. I avoid calling it alliance as there doesn't appear to be a military component, and the relationships rely mostly on innovations in tech trade and sharing, and very little common law. Genli I is on a mission to establish relations with the world Gethin, known also ecumenically as Winter. Winter resembles its name environmentally as it's a very cold and icy snow planet. Genli's first interaction is with the nation of Karhide and a government official, Therum Estraven. Karhide is one of the two main nations on Winter, and in proper Le Guin form, the political system and society of each nation are quite unique to one another, and Le Guin, to our benefit, pays attention to both. Estraven is the prime minister figure and is Genli's primary contact. Their relationship starts out pretty rocky because Genli just doesn't trust Estraven. He can't get a read on him. This has most to do with their being from different worlds and cultures. Genli is thrown off by the unusual personality and characteristics of the Gethenians, and has difficulty understanding their motives. Further contributing to the alienness of the Gethenians are dynamic gender attributes. This novel is perhaps most well known for examinations of gender, presented at a time when such ideas just weren't discussed. There are strong connections between language and gender setting up much of the conflict in the story. Genli's anticipating and relating to Gethenians from an earthly or Terran perspective is problematic. Gethenians are at times ambisexual and may exhibit one or both genders. Intersexed themes run throughout the novel. Gethenians can become fathers and or mothers when they are in what's referred to as a state of Kemer, perhaps similar to what we humans might call being in heat. In Kemer, it's when Gethenians mate that a dominant gender presents, dictating who will be the mother and who will be the father. This, of course, provokes some deep thoughts for the reader. There are strong political undertones, and there is, intentionally, as much going on off the page as there is going on. This is another staple of Le Guin's writing. Genli is eventually granted an audience with the king, a necessary step in presenting the possibility of Gethin joining the Ecumen. Gaining an audience is a big deal considering the king's interest in the Ecumen is low and the loudest voices around him are shady dealers trying to undermine the process for their own selfish intentions. With so much political wrangling, deception, meeting in dark corners, cloak and dagger and whatnot, there's going to be winners and losers in this ordeal. Somebody's going to be on the outs. To avoid spoilers, let's just say that the two individuals who find themselves on the outs find themselves outside of Karhide, tricked, banished, exiled, or otherwise, and are forced, compelled by threat of capture and death, to embark on an 80-day journey across the brutal ice and landscape of the planet's inhospitable terrain. the two individuals will trek across the treacherous terrain known as the Gobrin Ice Sheet. The heart of the story is the relationship between these two individuals who are very alien from one another, and confusion about sexuality, friendship, trust, and love. They are from different cultures, they don't trust or understand each other, but if they're to survive, that's probably going to have to change. Trek with me now across the landscape of my 5 likes and 5 dislikes, including mild spoilers, which I don't think that you should mind for this book. Ursula Le Guin's Fit to be Read, The Left Hand of Darkness. Like number 1, it only takes about 15 pages to really be pulled in and invested in the story. The political intrigue has ramped up enough by this point, and the dynamic personalities of the Githenians is already becoming clear. Like number 2, language and prose are immaculate. There's a sense when reading Le Guin that every word is specifically and carefully chosen. I want to work the adjectives phlegmatic and pertinacious into my vocabulary and just hope that I'm able to apply them as wisely as Le Guin does to her characters. Dislike number 1, not so much a dislike as an observation for those introduced to the Hainish cycle. To read this as a standalone, initial world building might be overwhelming. With sci-fi, it always helps to go in expecting to be somewhat blind to alien terms. Considered as part of a larger universe, it does make sense. For those wading into Le Guin expecting a standalone experience and a short read, the possible world-building overreach could present some barrier to engagement. Like number 3, Tharum Estraven is a compelling character. I mentioned earlier that much happens off of the page, and I appreciate that in a reading experience. We discover much about Estraven, including his vow with his brother when they were young, and we can glean without needing much written word much of the context that this provides in Estraven's backstory. Like number 4, the world building is phenomenal. Yes, the beginning can be overwhelming for readers new to sci-fi, SF if you prefer. I'm not one to judge, but this short novel packs in what feels like 500 pages of political intrigue and 2 interesting and distinct nations, character examination, geographic and geologic world building, and adventure. Dislike number 2, the intersexed and androgyny elements are interesting in that their impact on language, behavior, personality, and the confusion that it elicits in Genly is very clear and compelling. Beyond that, it falls flat or at least feels somewhat incomplete. This is mostly due to the excessive use of he, him, his pronouns. In some ways, it makes the reading flow a lot smoother, but the sacrifice is that these pronouns so dominate the text as to disengage the reader from the important complexity and intriguing things that Le Guin suggests around the Githenians' gender duality. I still appreciate how taboo and perhaps revolutionary just presenting these themes are for something written in the 1960s, but a lot seems to have been left on the table. Another more recent book doing something similar is Anne Leckie's Ancillary Justice, and while I love both books and find Left Hand to be the deeper read, Ancillary Justice for me found the right balance in the using just one set of pronouns department. Dislike number 3, another missed opportunity, is the mysticism Le Guin introduces us to with things like mind speak, foretelling, and doth. Mind speak definitely aided the evolution of the Genly-I Tharum Estraven relationship, and if more time was spent on it, we would have had an even deeper and more dynamic study of these two. We're also introduced to the foretellers who, through a sort of religious ceremony of sorts, for a price, will answer almost any question about the future. The art of perfect uselessness of knowing the answer to the wrong question. The idea is certainly not new even for 1969, but it's always fun to have to think about how to phrase a question correctly or make a wish to get the exact wish or answer that you seek. Like number 5, chapter 14, The Escape. For me, this is where the book really becomes a page turner. The relationship and trust developing between Genly and Estraven is a nice payoff. It definitely took a while to get there, but this really elevates the story from a good read to something special and fascinating. This is the first chapter where Genly and Tharum's stories really overlap, and it illustrates their differing points of view. Genly repeats Estraven's story about sexuality, Kemer, love, and their deepening relationship, but from his perspective. This is where Le Guin most illustrates the relevance and connection of gender, sexuality, and language. This was, for me, the first time that I really felt the presence of both the masculine and feminine beyond just stereotypes in a Githenian. Dislike number 4, there's maybe a bit of a short change with the world building in Karhide. While the book starts out in Karhide, we don't get to see a whole lot of what the place is like beyond the political structure. It feels a little rushed, and we understand it much less than the well-realized Orgarain and its commensal's government. Dislike number 5, Secondary characters are very one-dimensional. This didn't really impact the novel, and I'm not too upset about it, but the story might have benefited if second-tier characters were more dynamic. Had this been a longer book, I'd like to see the character of Pemmer Tebay more fleshed out and less of a cliche. I'd appreciate more scrutiny around his backdoor dealings. I would have also appreciated more time spent in the fastness with the foretellers or in Orgarain with the mysterious Sarf. I certainly had to really reach to criticize this book 5 times. It is an excellent, thought-provoking, and rewarding, fit-to-be-read read. Thank you for watching. I'm Michael Levers, and this is Fit to Be Read.
Girl or boy, there's so much more to you.